This next drawing is a bracket design located on page 6 in your book, so chapter 6, page 6. And we've actually started, if you've attended the class or watched the class video, by creating some layers. And at the end of the class, we saved a template. Now, if you're watching this video and you haven't yet done so, you don't have this template, obviously. I'm going to open this template. This template is just called Chapter 6 Template. I'm not going to go over creating the template because you can simply do it yourself. And what we did was we started with the Chapter 5 template, and we simply added all these additional layers. Now, one of the things we did that is different is we changed some line weights. So previously we didn't touch line weights at all. Here we're going to change line weights. So you can go ahead and create these layers if you haven't done so. Go ahead and stop the video, create all the layers. You can see the line types here. I've expanded this out a little bit. The other information over here is not necessary. So you can see the line weights here and the different line types, and you can see all the layer names. So you can actually start from a new drawing if you want and go ahead and create it yourself from scratch, or you can just add on to the Chapter 5 template. Once you're done with that, simply save it as a new template. So just do a file, save as, and then save it as a template and call it Chapter 6 Template. Oh, and here I chose DWS. You want DWT for template, and you can see I'm not going to save this again, but I've already saved it as Chapter 6 Template. So if you haven't done so, go ahead and do that. So we're going to be working off of this template. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a bunch of construction lines. Oh, and that layer's turned off, so we need to turn on our construction layer. And as you've seen, and I have these construction lines created already. Okay, so when I created the template, I didn't previously delete all the construction lines. So I'm not going to go ahead and continue with this, with all these construction lines here, unfortunately. So I'm going to delete them all, and we'll then just recreate them. So what are these construction lines? These construction lines are here to essentially make it very easy for you to draw this part. Delete all those, and then delete all these. If you're following on in your book, the setup of the construction lines is shown on page 6-8. Okay, so we're first going to just start with a horizontal line and a vertical line. Of course, we need some kind of starting point. And we're going to use offset to create all our construction lines. So just looking at our drawing, we're going to create a construction line that's 1 inch up. We're going to create a construction line that's 4.5 inches up and 5.75 inches up. So 1 inch, 4.5, and 5.75. So we type 1, click on the line and move up. Click on offset again, type 4.5, click on this line and move up. Click on offset, type 5.75, click on the line and move up. Additionally, we need a line for this center, so we'll have a line that's 1.75 inches down from the top, and then a second line that's another 1.75 inches down, which would be the other side of this arc. We'll click here, type 1.75, enter, click on this line, pull down, and since we just need another 1.75, we can just click on this line and pull down again. That takes care of all our horizontal lines for now. Let's take a look at our vertical lines. For our vertical lines, we're going to start with a line that's 2.875 inches, and then we're going to come back by 1.625 and then 0.875. So offset 2.875, click on our line, offset 1.625, click and move back, and then offset 0.875, click and move back. We're going to separate these parts by 2 inches, or separate the views by 2 inches. And click on this line and move over by 1. And I guess I didn't mention, for this particular part, we actually only need 2 views. We don't need to add a third view to show all the additional, to show all the information necessary to build the part. And basically, as you're drawing a part, you need to just take a look at it and decide for yourself how much information you need. So, as we're looking at the other view, remember the front view will be looking this way through this hole, and then the view on the right will be this edge on the left hand side, and we'll be looking at this face here. So we'll have a 1.5 inch dimension, and then we'll also have this 0.5 inches. So we're going to draw a construction line that's 1 inch and then 0.5 inches. Type 1, and then 0.5. Okay, now that that's done, we can basically start tracing our part out from this grid that we have. So let's go on to our objects layer. We're going to choose line, and we're going to start right here, and I'm going to move over this way, come down, move over, come up, move all the way up to here. Now at this point, if we look over here, we see we have a diagonal here at 30 degrees. And all we know is that it ends up here, so we don't know the length of it. So we can actually draw that in simply by using polar tracking. So we need to make sure our polar tracking is on and our angles are set to 30, 60, 90, etc. And then the angle we want is 120 because that's 30 degrees beyond 90. So at 120, we simply move up to this point. At the intersection, we hit our mouse button. we move on to here. And now we need to add an arc. So we can come and choose arc. We can choose start, center, end. So our start is here, our center is here, and our end is there. Starting to look very much like the part. So we need to add a 1.75 diameter circle here and a 0.625 diameter circle there. So our circle diameter, click on this point, type 1.75, circle diameter, click on this point, 0.625. Finally, we have this 1 inch dimension, so we just need to draw a line across the bottom at the 1 inch height, which is this line that we put in here. We start here, we draw a line across. So that takes care of our side view, or excuse me, our front view. Moving over to the side view, we can come over here and just trace out the side view like so. If we start in this corner, we move over, we move up, over to here, all the way to the top, and right back down, just like that. Now, at this point, right here, we're going to need a solid line because there's a feature change that we can see. We also have a bunch of things that we can't see, so they'll be put in with hidden lines. So at the top of this circle, we'll put in a hidden line. And in class I did it by adding construction lines. You can do that. I'm not going to add construction lines for this video. I'm just going to use tracking lines to pull it over. Hit my mouse button to start the line and then end the line on the other side of the part. So we have one there. We're going to have one here. And again, how you do it is your preference. End one, excuse me, put one in there. Put one in there. Actually, this one we don't even need a tracking line because the construction line is already there, so we can just do that. And this part is mostly complete now. Let's see what we're missing. What we're missing is the rounds and the fillets. So first of all, we have a radius over here. So let's put that in. So we can go to our fillet, type R space 0.5, enter, click on this line. Let's see what happened there. I think I typed 5 space 0.5. Click here and click there, and that puts that in. Now additionally, we need these rounds of 0.25 to show the rounds around the complete part, and those actually will show up on our drawing right here, over here, and then up on the top on this side only. So again, we can choose our fillet. Here we type R space 0.25. Now we have multiple fillets to do, so we'll type M for multiple. And now we can just go around and select. Let's select here and there. Select these two. Select those two. Select these two. Now, as part of selecting this, you can see we lost this line. So we need to go ahead and add that back in to make sure we go back to our objects layer. Select. And we're going to add that back in. Okay. So this drawing is complete except for center lines and dimensions. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's first go into our center layer. And we're going to choose center line. And we need to add a center line here to show that we have the center of this hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a line here. And I'm going to bring a tracking line out. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn off or change my angle so I don't get these weird diagonal lines. So I'm going to start 0.5 inches out. So I'm going to type 0.5, return. Not quite sure why that happened. Let's try that again. Bring out my tracking line. Type 0.5. And then we need to go back 0.5. The width of the part is 0.5, and then out 0.5, so we type 1.5. And that gives us our line there. And then we can do a center mark here. And I think we're set up for center marks here, if I remember. Yes, we are. In the book, I believe they put in center lines. Frankly, does it matter? I guess it does matter. We probably should put in a center. We probably should put in center line. So let me delete this. And we'll go ahead and change to center lines. But as we do that, before we do that, let's just go into our format and our units. And we're going to change our units here because this drawing we're actually going to dimension fractionally. So we're going to change our units to fractional. And then make our precision 1/8. We'll leave it as inches. Hit OK. And then we'll go into our dimension style, modify, symbols and arrows we'll set up for our center line. Our primary units. Here we're going to set up for fractional and 1/8. And I believe that should be good. Type OK. Close. Now we'll choose our center mark, our center line, choose the outside arc, hit return, do the same for the other circle. Now we have our center marks done. At this point we can go ahead and start dimensioning. I'm going to move this to the center and pull it down a little bit. I guess I can expand my drawing a little bit. Zoom. Pull it down. I think that's fine. Okay. So for our dimensioning, remember it's generally always better to put in your small dimensions first. And the reason for that is when you dimension, your larger dimension, your wider dimensions will be farther away so that you're not crossing dimension lines. So for instance, I take this dimension here, this 7/8, and I pull it out. And I'm not sure why that didn't pull out, but we can select it and then move it up here. And I'm going to actually turn off my construction layer, make it a little easier to see the drawing and move things around without running into those construction lines. Alright, so now we'll dimension this location of this other circle. Like so. We can come over to here and dimension this width. Like that. Now in this case you can see the 1/2 inch is actually shows inside, but the arrows show on the outside. There are settings that will change the way that this looks. If you wish to change it, and you can actually do it individually with the dimension, or you can do it globally. So if you want to do it individually, you can look up in properties, and I believe we looked at this on another dimension, some other dimensioning we were looking at. So we can look at the fit, and will this change anything? Best fit. So okay, so we can do it like this: text and arrows, arrows only, text only, best fit. In addition to that, you have the ability to move it yourself. So for instance, we can take the 1/2 and move it out like that ourselves. And within dimension style, within fit, we can determine what goes on the inside. So we can tell it to put the, if there isn't enough room, only put the arrows in. So I believe let's see if we redo that, and if that will we delete that and put the dimension in, pull it up. Nope, we still get the text in. You can also then, with the symbols and arrows, change the arrow size, make them smaller, so you make the arrow size 0.125, and what you see is when we do that, I believe you'll see this, when we come back here to this dimension, now they completely disappear because they don't fit. AutoCAD will do some unusual things sometimes, and there is actually a bug in dimension styling, and I will go over it when we talk about when it comes up in the drawing that we do, which I think may be the next. It may be the next drawing or the one after that, but it's coming up soon. So there's some unusual things that happen. All right, so here this is suppress arrows if they don't fit inside the extension lines. We turn that off. Then the arrows don't disappear. So you can see there's a lot of ways to change and move the dimensioning so that you can get different views. And as I said, you can pull out dimensioning. So there we have the, you don't have any, you have the arrows on the outside with no line. There's no set, this is the best way to do it. You want to choose whatever essentially looks good, but it's pretty much up to you to decide that. All right, so we added the long dimension here. On the bottom here, we can add the 1.5 inch dimension. And then we have the 1 5/8. Whoops. Drew a line there. One 5/8, and the 4.5 here. The angular dimension we can pull in from here, so we can choose this and this line, and then just simply bring it up like so, and we get our 30-degree angle. And again, here you see the arrows on the outside instead of the inside. And with dimension style, we may be able to change that. Although I'm not quite sure why they're on the outside, because here they're shown on the inside. So I'm possibly changing it to best fit. Yeah, so best fit moves them onto the inside. And actually, if you notice, it also changed this. And this is now looking the way it does in the book if you're following along in the book. So the final things that we just need to add are the circle diameters and the radius. So we have the diameter for this circle. We have the the diameter for this circle, and then the radius for this arc. And always remember that circles are generally referenced with diameters and arcs with a radius. Okay, so at this point, I believe we're done. We have a one radius here. And sometimes these come in what can be strange ways. And all we need now is the text that says rounds and fillets are 0.25. And that didn't go in. Okay, so now it wants text height. It's easier to use multi-line text, I think. Simply put a box in and type. Fillets are space 0.25. And when you're done with text, you don't hit return. You just click outside the box. All right, so this drawing is done. I'm going to do a save as. And I'm going to save it as bracket design with dimensions.